When we want to know how much we weigh, all we have to do is step on the scales and look at the result. In contrast, determining the weight a member state has in the EU is not so straightforward.
Take Finland, for example. In terms of land mass, it could be seen as pretty sizable. But if you go by its political influence or population, it's much lighter.
With 28 members now, the European Union has had to devise a system to give each country a share of voting power, corresponding mainly to the size of their population. So this puts the largest countries at a clear advantage, or does it?
Let's start off with the European Parliament. Here, the number of seats allocated to each country is determined by proportional representation. Put simply, the higher the population, the more seats a country has, but also the more citizens one MEP represents. So, while a Maltese MEP represents 80,000 citizens, a German MEP represents up to 800,000. In such a system, how do MEPs from the smallest EU countries defend their interests? VoteWatch, an organisation which analyses the votes of the EU institutions, gives us a clue.
For a small country, it is very important that it chooses well its battles. For those areas where you do have a stake, you can get the support of the bigger member states in exchange for your support in other areas that are not so important to you. Also, key posts for the members of the parliament that come from your country or your officials.
In the Council, the voting system is different, but it is just as crucial for the smaller countries to form alliances.
It's in rooms like this that Europe's heads of state and government meet to make the decisions that affect us all. But how are decisions made, and what clout do the smallest countries have to make an impact?
On the most sensitive issues, including tax, defence or amending treaties, decisions are made by unanimity, which means, if we discount the pressure exerted by the largest countries for a moment, that theoretically each country has the same power. For all other decisions, a qualified majority must be reached, 260 votes and at least 15 countries in favour. Currently, the largest countries have between 27 and 29 votes. Medium-sized countries have between 10 and 14, and the smallest between 3 and 7. However, from November 2014, a new system will be introduced, double majority. To reach this, not only do a majority of member states have to agree, but also 65% of the EU population must be represented.
This plays, I believe, to the advantage of both big member states and small member states, but not so much to the advantage of the average member states, which until now were a little bit overrepresented.
The voting system aside, the rotating Council presidency also offers every EU country, big and small, a fantastic opportunity to facilitate agreements and bring issues of national importance to the table.
And finally, this is the European Commission. Here, each of the 28 countries is represented by a commissioner who holds a specific portfolio. This is the key for small EU countries to take ownership of strategic portfolios.
In this way, Greece, with its 15,000 kilometres of coastline, took over the fishing portfolio from Malta, a country which also has a big interest in the sector.
It's clear that with the successive enlargements, the number of small and medium-sized countries has expanded.
They may not have the largest share of the votes, administrative resources or negotiating power, but many small countries, when they play their cards right, succeed in advancing their interests in Europe.